Good evening, everyone. My name is Joshua Meredith. I'm the Director of Career Strategy and Technology at the Shevet Gladbach Center for Career Strategy and Professional Development. I want to welcome you to our Wednesday night webinar series here in spring 2021. We have a very interesting conversation coming up tonight, a little bit different than what we normally do here on Wednesday nights, where we usually provide a webinar. Tonight's going to be more of an open conversation, and we actually wanted to bring in one of our great YU students in order to sort of allow us to sort of give us the ability to have a conversation and really think about what networking looks like from a student perspective. This event is the brainchild of not only our speaker tonight, but also Naomi Kapp, who is here on our team here at the Gladbach Center. Naomi, as the Associate Director, gave us sort of the scoping and told me that Gabe was sort of interested in this. So with that said, I want to introduce my colleague and tandem tonight, Gabriel Maron, who's going to be here, and we're going to talk about networking for a little while tonight to sort of get you an understanding of sort of what are some options and available sort of tactics you can use when looking for a job, for networking, and for interviewing. Gabriel is a senior at the SciSim School of Business. Will be graduating in May 2021. But before he left, which is only a few months away, we wanted to have this conversation. So Gabriel, first, thank you for coming, and we really do appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Gabriel Maron. I'm from West Orange, New Jersey. I went to Christian for high school, Chicago for yeshiva, and currently in my last semester at YU, majoring in marketing. And I'm going to be working at People's United Bank, soon to be M&T Bank, starting this June as a commercial banking associate. So very happy to be here.
So, Gabriel, tell us a little bit more about like your academic path. Like, how did you get to this point now as sort of a graduating senior?
Yeah, so, coming into YU, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to major in. I think, anyone who comes into college, there's a lot of different options and it's tough to figure out what you want to do and really knowing, how you get to where you want to be. So I decided going into college that, I knew myself and I know I'm a pretty entrepreneurial kind of guy, and I knew that I want to do something, I thought something in the marketing fields. So I decided to major in marketing. And I decided a little bit, I'd say after my first year, that I'd rather go more to the finance track than say the marketing track. And, I definitely did a lot of courses I'll talk about a little later outside of YU to get me ready for it. But, I'm here now and I'll be working in a finance job as a marketing major, and we'll see what happens, but we're very excited for everything to unfold.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about that you were a marketing major, but you saw yourself in more of a finance path. Tell us a little bit more about how you sort of came to that decision and what influenced you to sort of make that change, because that is a change from what a traditional marketing major may choose to do after graduation.
Yeah, so I would say in the beginning stages of YU, one of the things that was really important to me was to get as many internships as possible and to really just get internships, but really get it in different fields. So I had an internship in marketing. I had an internship where I was a marketing consultant, and I had an internship this past summer in a finance position. So I really tried to get as much knowledge in different fields as possible. I think that really ended up ultimately helping me out. But I knew that it was going to be a challenge to get a finance position as a marketing major. It's not necessarily that common. And I think people have this misconception that it's not possible. But I think that I showed that it is possible. And I think that what really helped was outside knowledge of YU. I took a lot of courses outside YU. I took some LinkedIn learning.
Tell us more about some of those courses, because I always, obviously, look, we have SciSims is a great business school and offers you a variety of sort of both required and elective courses, but tell us like what you did as extra learning to sort of get yourself prepared to sort of make that sort of shift.
Yeah, so I knew I had to do something, like you said, I had to do something to really put myself ahead of the game, especially as a marketing major. And, as a marketing major, when you're applying to finance positions, you're going to get the question of, why should we hire you if you have a marketing major? And I think that could definitely scare people away. But something that I did was I knew that I had to, again, put myself out there. So I started taking these courses on LinkedIn, and they're LinkedIn learning courses. And the first course I took was an Excel course. I think that's really important for anything you go into learning at Excel. But I took an Excel course, I took a financial modeling valuations course, and I took a commercial real estate analysis course. And I think that what really helped me was, first off, understanding of why those courses can really help me. And also I was able to, I learned my own real estate terminology and really tried to get as much knowledge as possible in order so that I could get the position. And it really ends up helping out on interviews when they would ask me, Gabriel, why should we hire you if you're a marketing major? And, I talked a little bit about of my own personal pitch, but I also talked about these are the courses I took outside. It kind of shows, I'm dedicated, that I was able to take these courses to really show that, I can do this and that I did it on my own. And I think they were impressed by it. And I think that, for anyone, if you decide you want to go in that, decide you're going to go in the finance track and necessarily have a finance major, I recommend taking courses outside or even in YU, but doing things outside that show that you care and that you want to put yourself ahead of the game. I think companies are definitely going to look at that as positive.
Yeah, Gabriel, just to add on to what you're saying, because this is sort of like an open space in our sort of chat. I think those LinkedIn courses that you're talking about, the ones you took, not only do they help in the interview process, which I completely agree with, right? They also help if you post those within your LinkedIn profile. They can help in terms of recruitment. They can help on a resume, increase your keyword ability. So those are all valuable sort of aspects of really increasing your sort of your acumen as towards presenting yourself in a way that makes a ton of sense. I also think, look, they show an employer, they show someone who's, looking to hire an intern. They show how dedicated you are to really, learning your craft and sort of growing. So yeah, I definitely think that makes a ton of sense. What are some other things you've done to like increase your profile or your acumen since you've gotten here at YU or even before that?
Yeah, I'd say something that many people wouldn't think I would say is how I know I got there, but I did Torah tours, and Torah tours at YU actually really helped me out. And I went on a few Torah tours, and one of them I went to was in
Gabe, tell us for the people who don't know, what is a Torah tour?
Yeah, so Torah Tours is an organization, YU and Stern, and they send you to different communities on Sukkot, and they also send you in Shavuos to enhance the communities and give Torahs and really just meet people and go into different communities. And I went to Tribeca, New York, and had a great time. And I met a few real estate professionals there, and we started talking. And even after Torah Tours, they kept in touch with me. And one person invited me to different panels he spoke at. He also invited me to a gala that he was honored at. And through there, I was able to meet a lot of different people. I met one person who has his own real estate podcast, and I sat next to him at the gala at dinner, and we started talking. And he gave me his card, and I connected with him on LinkedIn. And I've spoken to him. I called him up once to ask him questions about real estate. And someone else I met at that gala was the CEO of Bank Leumi. And that was something I probably didn't think was going to happen, but yeah. I met him and connected with him, and I ended up going to his office, and we were able to speak. So I think that if you're able to do things, there are a lot of clubs in YU, even the YU MVP program, the Career Centers program, I was able to be a part of that. And I was in touch with someone who I spoke on the phone with, and we had a really good conversation and gave me a lot of good insight. And these are all connections that, one day you have. And I think that the more you can do, the more you talk to people, the more you get involved, the bigger and better your network is going to be.
Thank you, Gabe. I think that makes a ton of sense. What Gabriel is essentially saying is that he's been active in the networking process. He's been really active in sort of engaging. I think that's a really important sort of tip for students to understand and know. So if you're watching this tonight live, or you're watching this on our YouTube page, that's a great sort of thing to be engaged with, to always be sort of growing that network, because it does sort of stand behind you when needed. Let's move to our next topic of the night, which is interviewing. You're a marketing major, you applied to finance internships and jobs. How have you been able to use this experience sort of in your favor?
Yeah, at first I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know. It's definitely something where, think about, is it gonna, is it going to have a negative effect on where I'm applying? But I think it didn't have either. I would say, if anything, it worked out for me, because I think when what I've realized is that when you're applying to different positions and you're at interview stages and they're asking you, okay, so you're a marketing major, why should we hire you? Why is that good for us? I think two things. I think, well, number one, you have to realize that if you could get ahead of the game and you're able to be involved as possible, you have a lot of different internships in different fields. You can play that to your card. You can have play it to your benefit. And when they ask you that, you can say, look, I've done X, Y, Z. I've interned at these places. Even in marketing, you learn how to market yourself. You learn how to market a company. And when you're put in a position where someone else may not know, maybe they're just only focused on the finance, position or finance situation at hand. If you're able to really use your other skill sets that you've learned from the different internships that you had, or even from the different major that you have, I think that it can really be to your advantage. And that's something that I've really learned during my interviews.
That's really good information to share. So thank you. What are some of your best tips for your fellow classmates? What do you think really sets you apart when it comes to the interview stage? What are some of the things that you want to tell your classmates?
I think a few things. I think number one is being really authentic and also really putting yourself out there. I think something that I've learned is when, let's say they ask you, tell me about yourself, right? You don't want to say, my name is so-and-so and I love baseball. Like they want you, they want to get to know you, but the answer is really more, they want to hear, what I've seen is they want to know, this is my name, this is where I'm at in school, these are the clubs, activities, and this is who I am. But what did I learn from that? So let's say you're talking about, you're in the stock market club and you say, okay, I learned, X, Y, Z, and I was able to learn how to work as a team in this position. And they want to be able to utilize those different aspects, what you're working with and what you're seeing, that they can say, hey, this is, I think, could be great for our company, and he shows these skills. The second thing I would say is really study your company that you're applying to. So let's say they ask you, why do you want to work at this company? So don't just say, I want to work here because I'm going to make a lot of money, or I'm going to work here because it's a big company, right? Maybe look at the values of the company. Maybe see, if this company value, let's say one of their core values is giving back to society and charity. And, you do yachad, and you say to them, look, I've shown that this is something that's really important to me. This is a core value for me. And I think that, having those similar values is something great, being a teamwork like that. And I think that something I actually learned was I was applying for a position at the NFL, and I was able to reach out on LinkedIn to different people, and I found a few people who were willing to talk to me. And one of the person that I was talking to, I asked him, I said, to put yourself out there, any tips or anything? And he said, you'd be surprised that a lot of people, when they apply to NFL and they ask you, why do you want to work in the NFL? They say, well, I'm a huge Jets fan and I love football, or I love football and it's so important to me. I said, that's great. Like, a lot of people like football, but why specifically do you want to apply there? And I think that if you really put yourself out there and show, that you really care and that you actually know their own company, and that, you really do care and want to be part of that company, I think that's definitely going to play an integral role in getting the job.
That's the really good information to share. So thank you. Tell us a little bit about you. You've had some internships. Tell us about your experiences.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky to have a few different internships in different fields. The most previous one where I'm going to be working at this summer was at People's United Bank, and I was a commercial banking associate there. And that was great. It was remote, but I definitely learned a lot. I learned a lot about analyzing loans and looking at different portfolios, and that was something that was really interesting to learn about. I also, one thing that I take pride in was I was able to have a lot of different internships in the spring and in the fall also, even in school. So, a lot of people might say, well, you only need to have internships during the summer. But I think that really helped was having it also throughout the year, because the more on the resume, the better. So one of the internships I had was at Sensei, which is a marketing group. I was a business development intern there, and I had some other internships at other companies. I was a marketing consultant for a movie. So there were different internships that I had that I think that if you're really able to put yourself out, I think I know that's a trend, but really put yourself out there and do in the spring, do in the fall, do in the summer, do as many as you can. I think it's going to come a long way when you're really applying for that one position that you want to ultimately work there full time.
Interesting. Okay, thank you. I think that really does help sort of give context to everything you've been working on. Let's move to sort of some networking tips in our sort of block here. You've done a tremendous amount of networking. Tell us more about what you've done, how you've done it, how you sort of work through it, how you keep yourself motivated to continue to network, and how you sort of stay in touch with your contacts.
Yeah, so I think people have this, in general, this misconception of networking. I think people think that, you have to know someone in order to reach out to someone, you have to know someone to get a job. But what I found is I don't think that's true. I've used LinkedIn a lot. LinkedIn has been my tool to really get in touch with people, connect with people. And I think the biggest thing is you really have to put yourself out there. If you're a little afraid to reach out to people, a little afraid to fail, that's okay, but you're not going to succeed every time you're going to reach out. And I've had a lot of times where people haven't reached out to me, but all you need is one or two people to really just reach out and get back to you. So let's say I want to apply to, I'm going to use the NFL as an example. Let's say I want to apply to NFL. And, first what I'm going to do is I use LinkedIn, I type in NFL positions, and I'll find something that is similar to what I want to do. And I'll usually go and I'll see other people who are working in that position itself, and I'll reach out to them. And depending on who it is, I'll probably reach out and message a little differently. But if I'm, let's say, reaching out to someone who's a few years older than me in a similar position, I'd be, hi, my name's Gabriel Maron. I'm a marketing major at Sim School of Business University. I recently applied to this position. Would we be able to talk a few minutes to get to learn more about your company and your time there? So I think people want to talk about themselves, and people want to also give back. That's something that I've learned. So, don't be afraid to reach out to people. Again, all you need is one person to reach back out, and you never know where to go. So I've used LinkedIn to my advantage. One thing that I've started, and I hope to continue, is I've created an Excel sheet, really just having just the different names of the people that I've met that either have gotten their card at different places, or even sometimes people that I think this would be good to have, and you put down their name and their position. And I think that's something else. And again, just reaching out to people. You never know what's going to happen. Even if you're at an event, or if you're at school, if you're at somewhere and you reach out to people and you talk to them and ask them what they do, and maybe they know someone. So you never know where one person can lead. And getting back to the tour tours, I mean, I think going to tour tours and Tribeca in New York was going to help me, meet the CEO of Bank Leumi. So you never know what's going to happen, but I would say just try, put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to fail, and we'll see what ends up happening.
I mean, that's a really great ideas. And I also would want to echo that sentiment. Putting yourself out there and sort of allowing yourself to sort of be in a place where you can feel uncomfortable and you can, get to meet new people is really valuable. So there's that. What would you suggest to students to really grow their acumen network? What are some ideas that, if you're weak in that way, what would you sort of suggest to your fellow student?
Yeah, I would say, similar to what I said, I would say really reach out to people. And if you're afraid to reach out, and that's okay, I just think that there are other ways maybe to reach out in the beginning to get comfortable with it. So, like I said, the YU MVP program, that's a program where they pair you up with someone. So it's not necessarily you reaching out, have to be cold messaging them. They pair you up with someone and you can meet with them and talk to them. Even using LinkedIn, just sending people messages and see what they say. I would also say that when you are sending a message, I think it's common knowledge, but I think some people might still do this sometimes. When you're sending a message or you're talking to someone on the phone and you want to talk to them and get to learn a little bit more about their business or get to know about what they do, I would recommend not to reach out and say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'd really like a job. Can we please talk? Because no one's going to respond to that. I think something is you really have to start talking to them, let them talk about it. Towards the end, you could say, I've had a great time talking. Thank you so much. Is there anything you can do to help me, put myself in a better position to get this job? Or is there anything that you can do to get me in touch with someone else? And they might get you in touch with someone else, and they might know someone. So I would say really just don't be afraid to reach out. Even if you're a little uncomfortable to do it, it's okay to get outside your comfort zone just a little bit to do this. And I think that, again, put yourself out there, and you never know what could end up happening. And utilize LinkedIn. LinkedIn has really been the key for me for reaching out and meeting people.
Gabriel, I think that's a really good way to sort of wrap up and sort of end our conversation here, at least the formal portion of it. One of the things that I think you really mentioned is that asking, can you help set me up for a better sort of position moving forward? I think that's a really key sort of ender to sort of a good networking experience. And one of the things I'd also suggest is you also, if in a networking situation, can I introduce you to someone that could potentially make your life or business potentially better? I think that's a really big key metric that we often don't talk about at the student level. I always talk about what can I do for you, is sometimes an additional way to sort of end a conversation like this, because it can really help sort of grow the acumen between two people and really grow the bond that potentially exists. We've asked for questions from our esteemed guests here tonight. Do we have any before we decide to sort of call this for the evening? Okay, Gabriel, you were so great in answering all of my questions tonight, and I thought we had a good conversation back and forth. That we have no questions here, so that's we've asked a bunch of you, and I want to first of all, Gabriel, thank you so much for coming tonight. We really do appreciate it, and you lending your time here to the Glaubach Center. In addition to that, I want to give you an early congratulations on your upcoming graduation and starting at M&T Bank. From really, I had the pleasure of having Gabriel in my class last semester in SciSims, and he is an active participant in sort of everything that we offer here at the Glaubach Center. So Gabriel, a big appreciation and thank you for coming and doing this with us this evening.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. With that said, this webinar and conversation will appear on our YouTube playlist. We look forward to many more of these Wednesday nights. We have several coming up after Passover. So we look forward to seeing you here at the Glaubach Center. We can't thank you enough, and we look forward to many more of these. Have a good evening. For those watching on YouTube, have a good day, wherever it may be, and we will speak to you very soon from the Glaubach Center. Good night. Thank you.